Good evening. This is Deepak Chawla. I am a managing editor, nutritionist, author, having penned books which are poetry books and which are novels. And I have with me this evening Mr. Joy Bhattacharjya, Shomini Sen, and Mr. Ajay Mankotia on the platform of Tell Me Your Story. So, Tell Me Your Story is a platform where we bring together experiences of people who have accomplished in life, who have gone through experiences which are worth sharing, which are worth learning through. And it's a pleasure for me, and it's a privilege for me to have this evening being hosted by me. So, we are in that stage of the seasons where it is where newspapers are talking about what is the temperature. They're talking about the records of the temperature. Mumbai has probably seen one of the coldest winters in recent times. It is snowing out there in Jammu Kashmir. The attires of our guests, of our panelists today, also suggest that there is a nip in the air. And all of us here do remember that there have been times of various seasons which remind of so many experiences of life which are so correlated to seasons. It could be related to the rains, where it's all green. It could be related to the summers. It could be related to the winters. But winters are specifically very interesting because you have a nip in the air, you feel a chill. And when you think of chills, it reminds you of certain experiences of life where really you went through a chill in your spine. And those were some of those defining moments in our lives. All of us have our journeys, all of us have our experiences, but that one or two moments in life, those one or two instances in life where we felt, gosh, where have we landed? Maybe I'm not going to get out of this. But we've all gotten through this. We've all got wiser from that. And we look back with fondness to those times. So these are some of the real life chills that we have experienced in life. And it's a great privilege for me to have certain people who have some of the most mind blowing experiences which they can share with us uh, from diverse fields. We have people from the Indian Revenue Services, we have a sports specialist, and we have a media specialist with us. So, welcome once again. And maybe I'll take this opportunity to start off the conversation with Ajay ji. Ajay ji has been into some of very interesting experiences of life, which whatever I have known and I have heard uh, sends a chill in my spine. But for someone who would have experienced such things, I really don't know how it would have been. So Ajay ji, uh, what is that real chill in life that you faced? And we would like to hear from you.
Deepak ji and my co-panelists, before I start, I just wanted to, by way of introduction, tell you that I served 26 years in the income tax department, and then I took VRS in 2008, and I joined a media company for 10 years, and then for last 3 years I've been now practicing tax. I wrote a book called "There's Seven for You, Three for Me," uh, being my experiences in the tax department. Uh, it's a book not on the department only, but also on the taxman, because there's a huge amount of ignorance about what the taxman does, what the challenges he faces are. Uh, and this book seeks to demystify the work that he does. It's in a very irreverent, racy style to counterbalance the serious, sober work that he does. But there's a subtext of the serious work that carries on. Paying taxes is not a very favorite pastime of most people. It's a very unpopular job. It's a thankless job, but people have to do it, and tax people do it to the best of their ability. Of course, there are certain exceptions. There are aberrations which need to be pointed out. That need to be punished. But by and large, the tax department is a very professional organization doing the best they can in the most adverse circumstances. Um, and I'm very glad to inform you that they are now moving towards a service-oriented uh, method of working, whereby the taxpayer is the valued customer, and the tax man is the service giver, and
Yep.
uh, uh, and therefore there's absolutely no reason why people must fear the taxman. If you've done nothing wrong, there's absolutely no reason why you should fear him, or you know be wary of him. He's just like you and me. He's a father. He's a brother. He's a son. He has the same aspirations as all of us have, and so this
Absolutely.
book tries to demystify that. Now, having said that, I've used a lot of anecdotes in my book to describe the kind of various activities it does. So let me describe one particular raid that we conducted. Now, raids in income tax parlance are called search and seizure operations.
Oh,
So this is
fantastic.
the raid we did in UP in the mid 80s
Hmm.
uh, against a local politician. This raid was organized from Delhi, and so my colleague and I we flew down to this particular place in UP, and the local people, the local officers were all requisitioned, and the local police was also requisitioned. There were about 50 police people who were requisitioned to provide security to the team. And early morning, we left in a convoy of cars to this politician's house. He was living in the suburbs of the town, in the industrial area, where he also had a factory. And when we reached the house, he was absolutely shocked to see us because he'd never ever expected the government to land up at his house. Um, so there was that initial resistance, which of course, seeing the police and seeing the big team, he relented finally, and then we called for two witnesses, which are mandatory for any search operation. So he called the principal and a senior teacher of a local school. They came as witnesses, and the search started.
Okay.
And we start from room to room. First, we secure all the rooms. We call all the people to one particular room, and then we start the search from room to room. We go through everything, and then, of course, the politician, his family, and witnesses are there in every place that we are in, and to see for themselves what's happening. And so search carried on. There was no issue. He became cooperation personified when he saw that the search is going to go on, and we mean business. About 3 hours later, we heard a loud shouting from some distance, and then we were told that
Okay.
the school had just got over, and must be the children making a racket. And gradually, the sound started approaching the house, and soon it reached very very close to the house. A huge din, massive shout, and we could see the police in the courtyard, gripping their. Actually, police incidentally, very few had guns with them. Most of them were with lathis. They started,
Latis, yeah.
gripping their lathis a little more tightly. You could see the expression of I won't say fear, but concern on their faces. And lo and behold, soon enough, there were about 100 plus students holding cycle chains and hockey sticks and
Oh,
iron rods surrounding the house, and shouting "Hi, hi" and "Murdabad, Murdabad" and so on. And then they broke open the gate and came inside the house. We were on the first floor. We seeing all this happening in the courtyard below, and we then requested the politician to intervene and make sure that we are all safe and secure. Instead, he turns around and says, "अब बताइए आपके साथ क्या किया जाए?" And we
oh,
had a lady with us who would come from Delhi with us, and he became so menacing. He became so angry. He started cursing us, and he said, "अब मेरे साथ आप नीचे चलिए और crowd को face कीजिए." Before we could do that, we heard cries coming from the back
okay.
of the house, and we saw that the back door had been opened, and a lot of our own officers were running out in the fields. A lot of police people who were with us had abandoned their rifles and lathis and were running in the fields, and the crowd giving them a very spirited chase, and catching them and then beating the hell out of them. But this was happening as we stand in the first floor and see what's happening behind and in front of us. Then we come down with him, and he then addresses the crowd and says, "This is a conspiracy against me. These people have come from Delhi. They're jealous of my success. The opposition wants to pull me down. This is all politically motivated. There's nothing they have found," which was absolutely contrary to facts, because we found a lot of duplicate sets of books and lots of unaccounted assets and cash. Anyway, now, so crowd again screaming Murdabad, Murdabad. And now we are waiting our turn to be bashed up, if not more, because we've seen it already happening behind in the fields. Surprisingly, the crowd did not know how to react because there's a lady officer with us. If we had run, they would have run after us and beaten the hell out of us. We stood our ground, we faced them, we looked them in the eye, and they didn't know what to do. In the meanwhile, we had already contacted our office, and they had contacted the PSC. Can you imagine now? The PSC, the provincial armed constabulary, had to be called to bail us out, and they came in their trucks just in the nick of time and shooting in the air, and the crowd disappeared immediately, and then we couldn't obviously carry on the search the same day. We had to lock the house, and then subsequently, of course, the raid was not abandoned, but it was postponed to some other day. But the herds, what impacted was the prestige of the department. How can a person like this stop the process of law? So subsequently, we raided again, and then it was a successful raid. He was arrested. There's a case filed against him. The case filed against the principal and the teacher, who had actually surreptitiously collected the crowd and asked them to come and stop the raid. But the funniest thing was that when the raid got stopped by him, and then we were outside waiting for the other team members to arrive, one fellow came to me wearing a red underwear, and he saluted me. And I said, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm a policeman who was in the raid duty." So I said, "Where are your clothes? Where's the uniform?" He says that I shed them off when I ran in the fields. "Where's your rifle?" "Same thing, sir." So I said, "Which department do you belong to?" So he says, "I belong to the police band." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, police band." I said, "How about your colleagues?" That they're also from the police band. So this was, it was a very serious matter, but there was this element of humor finally introduced as to how casually, how how non-seriously these things are taken. These police security duties, how the local team office had summoned the police, and the police had instead sent band members to protect us. So finally, anyway, the raid was very successful, and it was a deterrent now to further such things getting out of hand. And as far as the crowd part is concerned, the crowd surrounding us and stopping the raid and shouting and screaming and hitting out, and this was used in the film Raid also, as far as this particular element was concerned. And of course, we had there's a beta co-panelist with us, and she'd be also aghast to know that the local papers the next day in that particular place, such absolutely bizarre headlines. Income tax ऑफिसर्स की जमकर पिटाई, एक गंगा में कूदा. This was the headline in the paper, the vernacular paper. So, but this is what happens normally in many cases. These things are not reported mostly, but people have these issues when they raid. People ask me, do you feel happy when you raid? It's the most unpleasant job you can do. This invasion of privacy, seeing what they have inside, seeing the kind of trauma they go
Damn
through,
sure.
seeing
Yeah.
the violation. So so close at it's a very very uh, what should I say, unpleasant work, but somebody has to do it. So we do it as professionally as we can, and but there are many instances where people get beaten up, even killed during raids. So this was one very bone chilling event that we went through, and the
Very
second
true.
one I'll
Very true.
describe later
If
when
every
we.
profession has its own professional hazard.
I agree. So the next one I'll describe, I think, after the other panelists have described their own experiences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll come back. We will come back to you. And I was just trying to, there was somebody who also resonated your thoughts because there was a comment on the Facebook that the person could relate to what you're saying because her father was also in the IRS and faced a similar predicament.
Yes. Yes.
So we all sign up for professions which we know all have the professional hazards. But when those professional hazards actually come in front of you and you have to deal with it, it's completely different. But yes, as a media specialist, what you have undergone and something that you recall as something which is so really etched into your soul.
Hello, it's really an honor to be a part of this discussion today. I unfortunately or fortunately, I haven't experienced something as dramatic as Ajay sir was mentioning. And I remembered Raid, the film, because I'm a film critic and I'm an entertainment journalist, and I also write features. So I remember the Raid, and I found that film very nice. So this is the other side of the story. This is the real story. I think, as media professionals, something that is not taught in journalism schools is the fact that we are always nobody teaches us about the fact that you have to learn the art of patience. That is something that I think newbie journalists should also be taught, because wherever you go, be it for a scoop, be it pursuing a politician, definitely a film star, you have to have a lot of time in hand, and you have to be patient. You could be just standing under the tree for like hours. There is and nobody's going to even offer water or a place to sit, just to get one bite. um, I don't think I would call it chilling, but very early in my career, I was there was this event being organized in a very remote part of Delhi, and the organizers wanted me to come and cover the event primarily, but they lured me with that a very prominent big Bollywood star. I'm not going to name that person. Bollywood star is going to be part of the event, and please come. And because I was a rookie reporter, and at that point also very desperate to impress my boss, so I convinced my boss that no, I'm going to get you not one but two stories, and it's going to do well. And I went. Firstly, I couldn't find the place because it was so such an obscure place out of blue. I don't know where it was. It was the first time I visited that place. Secondly, I kept waiting. First, the organizers did not turn up. So I was the only one standing there with some people who were just putting up chairs. Who I was coordinating with, she finally did, and she said, "Yeah, yeah, I'm coming. I'm on my way, and we're just a little behind our schedule." I said, "Fine." Finally, did she did turn up? There was I suddenly realized that I had been literally conned because there was no other media professional around there. So I was the only one who was going to cover
Oh,
the, and I obviously wanted to run away because I couldn't see any crowd. I couldn't see an event happening. Slowly, the crowd started turning up. It was like a mall sort of a thing, but so crowd did start coming up, and there was a stage being set up. Some performers, local performers, were called in. They were performing, but the star, the set star, and he was a big Bollywood star. He was going to come. There was no sign of him. Kept waiting. They did not have any amenities, no water. Some from somewhere somebody bought a bottle and gave it to me. I had come at an hour when it was, I think, late afternoon, so no lunch, nothing. Kept waiting, kept waiting. I said, "Aren't there any more media professionals? Haven't you called?" "No, we told you now. We are giving you an exclusive bite of that person." I said, "Okay, great." And I kept waiting, waiting. For 5 hours, I sat there. It started raining in the middle. It was an open air event, and there was no sign of the
oh,
actor. Um, Eventually, I had to call up office very disheartenedly. I tell them that this is the scene. And fortunately, my boss was nice and she said that it's okay, just come out. I had no idea how to go back home. Like, from where, how will I reach home at that, from that point? I had no idea because I just started off. So I also did not know too many places in Delhi. This was somewhere in North Delhi. So yeah, that's something that happened, and this is a very common thing that keeps happening to people in my profession. We are lured, we are told we are going to get a good scoop, and then it doesn't happen. Or we are, put in such awkward positions, but just because we have that hunger to crack the story or be the first to crack the story, we end up in very awkward situations. I have gone to somebody's hotel room and felt extremely awkward, but had to shoot a video, and I was the cameraman as well as the reporter. So handling a mobile phone and going to shoot it on the phone, while the man in question, a very prominent personality in our pop culture, he was
oh,
obviously, again, not really behaving the right way. And yeah, I was just, I mean, the PR came, she introduced me to this person, and then she said, "You guys do the interview, and I'll come back in few minutes." So it was the most uncomfortable interview, and it went live. Like, I still have it on the internet. It's somewhere there, and I think it's very evident on my face that how uncomfortable I am because the man is sitting right next to me, very close, and we are talking. I have to ask and look very interested, and but it was the first of a kind interview that I had done, and nobody else, no other publication had done. So, well, that's how it happened.
wow. I mean, it's really one doesn't say it often, and one shouldn't talk about it. But yes, unfortunately, it's a dirty man's world,
Absolutely.
and it's a noble profession. Journalism in such is such a great noble profession,
Thank you for calling it
and
noble.
many
Nobody
of
calls it noble in this day and age,
steps
by
in
the way.
life
We are only,
and coming out
we are,
victorious.
We are
Thank you,
only
Shomini, for
abused.
sharing
The
your
fourth estate is majorly abused
experience.
now. So, thank you.
Joyda, over to you.
I thanks. I've been enjoying
So,
myself.
Joyda, we've
Yeah,
seen Inside Edge goes.
I think we've lost Deepak for a bit.
I think
Yeah,
Joy can
so
continue.
Yes, yeah. I think I was just in the cloud for a moment. Yes, Shomini, thank you very much. And yes, I do reiterate it's a noble profession. And you know the cricketing world so closely. You have been so much into a part of action in the IPL as a part of the KKR squad in some form or the other. What is it that you would like to share with us that resonates with you even today when you think about some of your actions of those times?
I think I'd like to talk about a story that happened a little bit after that, and this was
Hmm.
during the Under 17 Football World Cup. And
Okay.
the Under 17 Football World Cup was the first ever FIFA event in India. So we've been working for 3 years in it. It was huge. And finally, when we ended the event, we actually had more people coming to stadiums to watch the game than were there in stadiums during the 2011 Cricket World Cup. So it was a big, big
Oh.
win for us. And all these stadiums, Calcutta, we used to pack it 65, 70,000. We never allowed more than that because we had safety regulations in FIFA. So this was about
Hmm.
something that happened halfway through the tournament. We've done very successfully. We are doing very well. Kolkata has done a quarterfinals. There was an amazing quarterfinals in Kolkata where Brazil won. Brazil beat Germany. And then what happened was there was a semi-final which was supposed to be played, and that semi-final was supposed to be played in Guwahati. And
Okay.
we've done 3 years of research. We've done 3 years of research checking everything about what the weather is like, where it is, and all that. And Guwahati showed no particular bad weather at that time.
Hmm.
Suddenly, there was torrential rain for 4 days. Torrential rain for 4 days. And there was one league match. And after that league match, the pitch was absolutely dead. And remember, this is India's first major sporting event after the 2010 Commonwealth Games. So there's a lot of pressure on us, not just to do a good tournament, to do a clean tournament. And we saying, okay, what can we do out here? We need to do something about this. So we are trying desperately to clean it. So my colleague from Chile, Javier, was there, and he was actually the requisitioned Air Force helicopters. They're trying to dry out the ground in Guwahati, but it's not happening. 40 hours to go, less than 2 days to go. We take a call and we say, okay, the same final has to be moved. We have to move it to Kolkata. Now, here's the big thing. FIFA is absolutely clear in their regulations. They said if you cannot
Gosh.
distribute tickets in an orderly way, in 2 days' notice, you're doing a match. If you can't distribute tickets, let's play the game to an empty stadium. I said, we are not going
Oh.
to play this event in an empty stadium. There's no way we can do it. But how do you actually ticket an event in 2 days? Because I'll explain how ticketing works in FIFA. What happens is,
But tickets would have been sold in Guwahati earlier, right?
yeah, so we have to cancel Guwahati, we have to give back their money, and we have to
Okay.
resell for Kolkata. Kolkata has a different capacity. Kolkata has a different ground. Obviously, people in Guwahati will not use the ticket in Kolkata. Now, the way in which tickets are sold is very simple. What happens is, you go online, you buy a ticket. Once you buy it, you buy the ticket, you get a coupon, you get a number. You redeem that number in a physical booth. But that means that finally it takes at least a minute to give you a ticket. Because what will happen is you go, you say your number, and he'll say, okay, this is the number. He'll print it out and give it to you.
Yeah.
Now think about it. If you're going to get 70,000 people, and we had only about 80 booths because we didn't need more than that, how are you going to do it? So FIFA said, don't do it if you can't do it. And we said, we are not going to play to an empty stadium with the semi-final we worked so hard for. So we had an idea. We said there were tickets of different capacity, 500, 300, 100. We said money is not the point. All tickets are going to be worth 100 rupees. And what we'll do is when you buy a ticket online, you just get any ticket. Okay? So what happens is we print out all the tickets. Whenever the person comes, we just give them the first ticket there is. It doesn't matter which block would not. So there are 70,000 tickets printed. The guys come, they pick it up. Then what happens is there's no delay in printing. So it was a risky strategy. We said, okay, let's try it. So we tried it, and that day, the day before, so there's 40 hours. So when we released the tickets, there were 1.5 million people in Calcutta trying to buy tickets. The line was of 1.5 million. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And finally, I think it came to a stage where the top 70,000 got their tickets within about 4 hours. All the matches were sold out. Now the point is, how do they redeem the tickets? So the day of the match, we reach out there on the day of the match. The day to redeem the tickets is 7 in the morning. First thing we see is all the counters are jammed. There are people standing in front of the counters. All of them are basically ruffians who are there to basically, they're saying, we are not going to allow, we don't care about this online and all, give us tickets. We are not going to move. We are not going to allow public to gather their tickets without, we want tickets. So the whole place, so I remember I spent half my time perched on top of the ticket booth because I was trying to figure out what was happening under there. Police came, they tried to lathi charge them, then they had to move them once. All sorts of chaos happened. Finally, we managed to get rid of those people. Then what happened is the real people who were supposed to come and get the tickets, they came forward and they said, okay, they are standing in line saying, okay, this is my number, this is my ticket. Calcutta public, obviously they know exactly what they're doing. So they know that A block is a better ticket, C block. Now all are 100 rupees, but the moment they come to a counter, they said, what ticket are you giving? And the guy saying, okay, it's an A block ticket. He said, no, I don't want that. I think D block is a better ticket. And the guy saying, you have to take whatever ticket I give you. The guy will immediately leave the line. So they would actually start maneuvering to see which place that they can actually sit, because even a 500 rupee ticket is going for 100 if you know which ticket is going at one point in time. So it was like complete chaos happening. On the other hand, FIFA telling us, what do you want to do? Do you want to lock out the stadium? You don't want to? We said, okay, got to go. And finally, I remember when by 5:30 we closed the ticket counters and we said, whatever has happened has happened. And we are all sitting out there, 3 years of hard work out there. We're looking out there and saying, how many people are going to come? The match is at 8 o'clock. And it was 5:45, 6 empty, 6:15 strictly coming in, 6:30, 6:45 they start coming in, and by 7:58 it was a full house, and never before has FIFA, and I remember people from FIFA saying it's a never before. Within 2 days has a venue being changed and a tournament, I mean venue being changed and a match staged on less than 2 days notice with a full crowd. So that was just amazing. And for us, I think more importantly, two things were at stake. One was, prestige of our country and how well we did organize event. The other is the Kolkata public is such a, I mean, you could have done it before and behind closed doors and it was a safe option to take, saying, okay, nobody is allowed inside. But Kolkata is such a passionate city to deny them top quality football. And I remember that match was played, it was between Brazil and England. It was an absolutely amazing match. That match was a terrific match. And we would have denied people had we not actually allowed them into that match. So that was definitely, it was something where, and one of the things that strikes you at that stage is, what if I play safe? I'm FIFA, I'm with FIFA, I'll say, okay, fine, the proper thing is to just shut it down, don't bother, don't take a risk. It's easy to play safe in dangerous times and say, cover my ass. I've said this, I prefer to play it without it. But there is a point in your life where you say, are you going to cover? Are you just going to play it safe, or are you going to try and actually make a difference? And that's what we said to the team. All of us, we got together and said, can we do it? And I said, if we do it, it's one of the biggest things we have done. Nobody has ever moved a match in such so little time. And that's why, I mean, when you have moments like that, they make memories for a lifetime. So that was one of the incidents that was very dear to my heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I, try to connect the dots of the experiences of three of you all, what comes to the fore is that all three of you all, with whatever situations you just shared, you were a part of an ecosystem. It was not something that you had individually facing a situation, but when you were in that situation, as they say, the buck stops at you. You've got to take the decisions. You've got to make the moves, and that's where when you really think about it, as you said that it was the first time you were the country's prestige at stake. And Shomini, for example, she faced that situation, and she could have very well said that, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going home. When she was in that uncomfortable situation in the hotel room. But at that point of time, today we can reflect back and say, okay, this is what I did. Do you have a recall, Shomini, at that point when it was happening really? What were some of the thoughts that you can remember at that point of time specifically? When today you can look back and say that this is how it happened.
To be very honest, the first thought that came in my mind is that I have informed my family that I am going to be here. It was a very late hour scheduled interview, and it was supposed to happen at at a club, or a restaurant below the hotel room. But it was then eventually shifted. I was told that he's not feeling well. I said okay, and uh, the first thought that crossed in my mind was that my family knows that I'm here. So in case anything happens, they know that where to call and
Hmm.
who to call and all of that. So I think that was my first thought. And then the second thought was that this is a one of a kind, like the celebrity admitted that. So it was something called a selfie interview where you open the front camera of the phone, of the iPhone, and then take an interview.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am handling, yeah, right. So I'm handling a selfie stick, and he's sitting right next to me. And he admitted on camera that, oh, this is very unique, and I've never done this. This is my first. And we ran it as also as a first of its kind interview at that point of time. This is a few years back. But I remember everybody on that video commented that, look at the journalist's face, she's so uncomfortable.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, when you are facing such a situation where and planned yourself for that, how, what happens to your mind? What do you think when you say that, okay, I had come with such a plan, and what has turned out to be different? Do you have plan B's with you, or do you have a plan C with you? Ajayji, at that point of time, when you were surrounded by those, and you would have definitely thought that there would be resistance and there would be some kind of stuff. But suddenly being engulfed by such a huge crowd, I'm sure you wouldn't
Thing is,
have
yeah,
found it
there's no manual that can
factored
there's no manual that can teach you
that
how to
into your
react
planning.
in these moments. You have to think on your feet. You have to
So,
think. You have to use common sense that time. And uh, but having said that, there's one little incident that I must mention to you. You know, it's not an incident which involves danger or uh, any such thing, but these are incidents which shake you up so badly, so fundamentally, that you actually start reflecting whether we are doing right by these people or not. I was deputed as a chief vigilance officer with some fertilizer companies. You'd be aware that there used to be a fertilizer company in Sindri. Initially after independence, Bhakra Nangal Dam was
yeah,
made, and uh, fertilizer factory in Sindri was made, and Sindri was one of the temples of modern India. Commanding heights of the heroin economy. Compulsory
may I
stopover
just,
for.
I just wanted to say that we can, because we would be having another conversation in about 6 minutes from now. So if maybe we can just wrap it up a little bit concisely.
Yes, yes. So, Sindri, of course, used to be on the itinerary of all the foreign dignitaries to come to India. Unfortunately, over
Yeah.
the years, there were so many factories, including Sindri, which were closed down in India because of unviability, and they became ghost towns. They became industrial, wastelands. I visited Sindri and I saw these people staying in these residential areas, no electricity, no schools, no gardens, no dispensaries, living, eking out a very, very miserable living, and vacant look in the eyes, nothing to look forward to. One such incident that I remember, which I'll just be very brief about, I went to Bengal and there was a factory which was closed down there also. And there was some incident of some theft which took place, and I'd gone there to investigate. And the local unit there, of course, the factory was closed down. There was very, very few officers. They hosted a lunch for me, and because they had no money, the budget had to be sanctioned from New Delhi. I had lunch, and after the lunch was over, they asked whether I wanted any ice cream. So I said, no, I'm not interested. Thank you. You carry on. But the manager kept insisting that I must have ice cream. I said, I'm not interested. Why are you so persistent? And then he says, the ice cream that I would have ordered, I would have got it back for my daughter. But I have two daughters. I was hoping that you would order, and then I would have it packed and take it for my other daughter, because they haven't had ice cream for 1 year. It was such a traumatic, such a sad thing to hear, and because that incident, that particular thing that he said, it's still imprinted in my mind. How deeply impacted these people are because of these closures, because of the fact that these factories are closed down, and of course no efforts are being made to revive them, but these people are in a very miserable condition.
Absolutely.
That again was a very chilling incident that I faced, and I really was very, very upset, and I mentioned it to my
I can
bosses later.
Okay. Thank you, Ajay ji. So if I had I been in those situations, the way situations you have dealt with, would I have dealt it with the same tenacity? Would I have dealt it with the same conviction? But I guess, we humans are made of that metal, that when it comes to testing our tenacity, when it comes to testing our determination, or when it comes to testing the humanness in us, like the way Ajay ji said, that the way he was touched by the way he was insisting to have the ice cream. I think these are moments which define humanity. I think these are moments which define our lifetime, the way we have lived it, to have known you, to have uh, heard your stories. And I'm sure this is not the end of it. We have a lot more to experience in life. Our journeys are different, but we are all bonded together by this string of humanity, by this string of the tenacity and the conviction and self beliefs that we all carry. And no matter what the situation is, like after winter, spring comes. Spring does come in our lives as well. We all go through this, and like our grandfather used to say, this too shall pass, and this passes. But when we are passing through it, how we deal with it, I think hats off to all of you for having dealt it the way you all have done. So, my heartfelt compliments and gratitude to you to being on this platform of Tell Me Your Story. And would love to have you someday again with us, maybe in some other context, in some other discussion. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling us. Thank you.
Thank you.